Okay, let's give this a little shot here. It's been a long time since I've done any type of broadcast. So I wanted to come in this morning and just show you some of the levels I'm going to be working with this morning for the S&P. It is Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. And let's just go right into it and look at what we're dealing with here before the open. It is about 20 minutes before the New York Open. And this is what I'm seeing so far coming into this morning. I've got a number of really strong levels down below us that make sense for support if the market is going to go ahead and pull back here this morning. Now, if we jump up to the daily and we take a look at what happened here off of Monday's high, we do have the argument for a bearish divergence from the high of yesterday. There's even a fairly bearish looking candle right now. And if we go down to the 4-hour, we also got a really nice 4-hour bearish divergence from the high of yesterday as well. And as you can see, going into the overnight session, if we maybe that 1 hour gives us a little more resolution here, as we ended the day yesterday, there's the 60-minute bearish divergence that coincided with the 4-hour from yesterday's high. We have gone and started our sell-off. Now, if you look at what happened here in the overnight session, I went ahead and plotted my fib retracement from the high of yesterday all the way down to the low of the overnight session. And interestingly enough, the market came right up into 38, failed, and then came up in the middle of the night here, probably right about 1 a.m. on the Pacific here, and came right to the 50% retracement and went ahead and continued to sell off to new lows in the overnight session. So it's carrying through with that bearish signals we're getting from the highs of yesterday. And we're going to have to see now, coming into Tuesday morning, are the bulls going to jump back in here and get strength to break back out to the upside, or are the bears going to continue to remain strong and continue to bring this market lower? So with that on the table, let's take a look here at what levels we will be contending with on either side. So for the bullish perspective, if the bulls do hold the overnight low here, we will have a nice hourly and I believe potentially 4-hour bullish divergence from there. So holding where we are right now would then complete a 1 hour and a 4-hour bullish signal that could lead to, again, that bounce back up. So if that does occur, let's see. They don't have to necessarily hold the overnight low, right? So if they do pull down a little bit lower, we've got our eye level here at 41.71. We've got a pretty strong retracement level at 41.6875. We've got our major swing at 41.66.5 sitting there naked from a couple days ago. And then we're down into a deeper retracement here around 41.60. So down here, if the bulls do come and find support off these first few areas of expected support, and they do pop, we're looking at some trouble right around the low of the day before, the close of the day before. Remember how many times we see the market kind of extend out away from the close from the day before and then come back and retrace that area. So remember, we've got the close of the day before just a couple, maybe a point above the low of yesterday there. And if they do breach through there, we're going to be coming right up into the holy orange power level at 84.5. Don't need to really spend too much time on how powerful that level is. So that is going to be the next area of contention for the bulls. And then that brings us up to the 50% area from yesterday's price action up there at 92.25, 92.5. So those are the first few areas that we're going to want to see the bulls break through if they're going to be strong. And then we're going to come up into this little 61.8 retrace from last night. Remember, last night we held the 38 and pulled back. We held the 50 and pulled back. So, hey, wouldn't be surprised to see them come up right into the 61. Now, I do have to kind of also point out that, and give me 1 second here, I do also have to point out that we are, where was I? had to switch something on my computer here. We are pushing to new lows. So the overnight fib that we respected at the 50 and the 61, or I'm sorry, the 38 and the 50, we technically have to redraw this down to whatever the new low is coming into the open. So if we continue to push lower, we will have to adapt this retracement scheme and bring it to lower lows and then reconsider where the 38, 50, and 61 are. But essentially, if we hold from where we are right now, that would be the final area of contention for those retracement levels, somewhere right around that 94.5, and then we have our scaffolding level at 95.75. So maybe that pocket there between 94, 95, 96 would be an area of contention to that upside. So if the bulls continue to remain strong from there, we're looking at it to come up and retest the high of yesterday, where we did have a pretty good confluence of bearish signals, and then up into 42.11, 42.12, 42.2675, and just about, what is this, 42.28 half. So that's what we're looking at to the upside here this morning. That would bring us up about 30, 40, 50 points up into that area around 42.28 half. And then what I want to point out from the bearish perspective here, if we zoom out and look at the weekly chart here, and we look at the previous weekly candle, really strong recovery by the bulls coming out of last week, right? We had a huge sell-off, and this was even just about a 38% retracement of this leg up, right? We came down, it bounced, what, 2 or 3 points in front of the 38, and now here we are coming into this week, attempting to break out. And yesterday, remember, was that little breakout to a higher high. However, we got the daily bearish signal, the 4-hour bearish signal, and the 1-hour bearish signal up there, right? And not too surprisingly, we have now pulled back. And one other interesting observation here is that in the overnight session, the market bounced, and basically it failed off the 50% retrace of that specific leg. But more interestingly, it actually failed. Basically, we got the retracement of 50% of the day before, and then the market continued to traverse lower, which is what you would expect in coming off of some pretty strong bearish signals. So we got that there, and ooh, I don't know if it's capturing my mic here, so it looks like I might be, oh no, audio input capture. There we go. Now everybody should actually be able to hear me now that I'm basically done with my analysis. Unbelievable. All right, well, so yeah, just some interesting things to be aware of here this morning. One other thing, again, coming up to this weekly perspective, I know there's a lot of lines because I've got my eye levels up on there, but 31.25 right here is 50% of last week. Okay, so if we're going to go ahead and continue to break out to the upside here, a pullback to 50% of last week's candle is not a surprising thing to see here before we actually get a continued breakout. So just something else to also keep in mind there. I do have that 31.25 marked on my shorter time frames here. So you see this big magenta kind of dash dotted line. That is the 50% of the previous week. So seeing the market retrace that and then finding support there for a strong recovery is basically par for the course, right? So we might still have somewhat of a bullish kind of bias here for the next week or two, but the pullback to 50% of the previous week is definitely not something that would surprise us. So be aware of that, especially considering all the bearish signals we got from yesterday's high. So yesterday's high got a lot of bearish signals on the higher time frames, and we're pulling back. So this pullback, you know, maybe we're going to come back down into that 41.30, 41.31 area. But let's talk about what we have down below us here if the bulls don't kind of recover here from the overnight sell-off and go ahead and break out to the upside and come into these levels of contention I just mentioned. If that doesn't occur, then we need to look at what we have below us here as potential supports or potential contention for the bears if they start to sell off. So we talked about these first few levels here, the eye level itself, one of these larger retracement levels, and that swing at 66.5, and then down into the next major retracement at 41.60, and then down to 41.5375. This should probably be out until 3 p.m. today. So beyond those, the first few areas of potential support for the bulls, the bears are strong, they break through all that. We've got a couple more levels down below us. We've got this area around 41.41 being the eye level. We've got the major retracement at 41.37.5. Then we get to the 50% of the previous week that I just kind of established at about 41.31.25. So that would be a pretty decent sell-off there. We're looking at a 50-point sell-off. Definitely something that could be very achievable in these type of markets. And then we are gonna, if it continues to sell off from there, we've got a couple other levels to talk about. We've got the other eye level here, about 41.23. We've got the retracement, the major retracement just below it there at about 21.25. And then we get to our next eye level, 41.16, and then the eye level after that at 40.97. That would be a pretty big sell-off from there. That would be way more than even a 61.8 retracement of last week's candle. So I think that covers at least the short term here for the next 6 to 12 hours. And as far as any type of strong signals, like I said, the only really strong alignment we have right now is the daily, the 4-hour, and the hourly, all giving a bearish signal from yesterday's high. Now remember, that doesn't mean there has to be some major sell-off. It definitely is a clue for a pullback, and we don't know whether it's just going to be a pullback here this morning or it's going to be the start of some type of major trend down lower. It's definitely the type of signal we would want to have at the beginning of a major turn. Just like we got a nice bullish daily signal on April 26th, and it led to this nearly 200-point push, or like it was back a couple weeks before that with the bears. We got almost say a 200-point pullback from there. So having that daily and then the 4-hour and the hourly buttressing it, or what's the word for it, kind of bolstering it, that could be the beginning of a major sell-off. But again, we don't know what's going to happen next. We just have our signals to rely on. So this could just be for the pullback that I've established here, maybe down to 50% of last week's price action and basically 50% of this whole leg up. Or again, it could be some type of major sell-off, down to new lows for this month now. So that's basically all I have coming into the open. We got about 5 minutes until we get there. I don't know if there's anything I should mention on the shorter time frames. I like to kind of keep things up here closer to the 60-minute, a little bit more zoomed out, so we can get a bigger perspective on things. Obviously, if we were to jump down into the 512, and I might have that up here, we can bring in. We do have our moving averages that will be in the way, as well as if the market does attempt to bounce higher. So outside of the levels I've just established, we do have the moving averages on our shortest time frame chart that we're going to be contending with as well. And I think that covers everything for today. Now I got long last night down off the bounce, this double bottom off VWAP here. It was pretty late. In fact, I just went to bed and I left my order on, and I got filled up at the 38% retracement here. I got filled up at the 50% retracement, and my runner, which was for much higher, just got stopped out when the market came back for a point or something. So I woke up to making a little bit of money last night, and the reason I went ahead and tried the long, and let me go ahead and explain this real quick before the market opens, is because last night we had a really nice bullish divergence going on from the overnight low. So what I recognized here was that we were pulling back into this overnight session off of, again, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and the daily bearish signal from yesterday's high. So pull back as expected from that type of alignment of signals. And on this pullback, on this overnight low, as it was playing down here around 41.76, 76.25, I noticed this pattern here. I've got a push to a slightly lower low, it was like by a tick, but yet my RVI pushed to a higher low. And then overall, from the overnight low at 76.5, if you zoom out and look, there was actually a decent divergence setting up all the way from this previous low up into this low here, and you can see how the divergence analyst also identified that. I saw all that setting up I saw some other things on the short time frames. And so as we bounced, and if I go back to my 512 tick chart here, so I could go in and get the detail. In fact, I was more so looking at my 1 minute. But on the pullback here, I saw we were coming into VWAP and then on the double bottom here. So I got in at about 41.80 half. I wanted to get in off the VWAP here as it was making the double bottom, but I wasn't at my computer, and I came back, and again, this was like 7:30 at night for me. I saw that bounced off, so I went even down to a shorter time frame to my 100 tick, and I got my entry at 80 half. And I'll show you the entry itself if I can find it here. Just going off memory from last night, I got in right here actually. So the market was already away from where I wanted to enter. I was a little bit annoyed about that, but I just went ahead and put my order at 80 half right at the fast moving average here on my 100 tick chart. Remember, in the overnight, I'm usually not, I have the 512, but usually my 100 tick is moving and acting a little bit like our 512 acts during the day, right, during when there's higher volume. So I went ahead and put the order at the FMA, and luckily enough, never came back. And like I said, we came up. You know, I eventually was able to get my fill here. I had it at actually at 87 half. So I was sleeping at that point. I don't know if it got filled here or if eventually it came back up. Remember, it pulled back, never came back to my entry, and then filled me there. And then I got the second contract off up here, and then it never continued to go for the rest of my orders. So it came back and stopped those out at, I think, plus a point, because I went to bed. I made sure that if it did come all the way back, at least I would have a little bit of profit to cover my commission on that trade. So I did make a little money on the final contract, but that's how it went last night. I saw that setting up here off the double bottom of the overnight low. Then again, it started to advance off of there on the pullback to 80 half. I was able to get in and then ride. So 80 half was right here, right? There's the double bottom off the VWAP. This was the double bottom from the overnight lows, and then my entry was right there off the FMA. So that's it for this morning. The market's going to open in 2 minutes. Remember, anything's possible. That's why I don't like to kind of hark on any side of things. I like to point out, and I think I just moved the wrong chart up. I like to point out either perspective here. If the bulls are strong, we've got very discrete areas that make sense for the bears to hold the market down or give the bulls trouble. And if the bears continue to stay strong, we have very discrete, strong levels down below us that would make sense for potential support and trouble for the bears. So we'll leave it at that. The last major signal we have, again, is the daily bearish signal from yesterday's high. So anyone's guess here if this is going to truly follow through for a bigger pullback or not. I'm not going to prognosticate on anything like that. Remember, we're intraday traders. We are reactive to whatever the market is doing, and we have to be nimble. We have to switch our hats on the drop of a hat, right? We need to be able to react and change our perspective when new information comes into the market. So everything has just opened here. Good luck, happy trading. Remember, all the levels I mentioned throughout the morning broadcast here will probably be some of the strongest levels we have to contend with. Again, last night I was looking at the two major retracements, and those were the two discrete areas that we pulled back from in the overnight session. So do not discount any of the levels we talked about here this morning, and hope you have a good trading morning. Take care.